Hello, mathematicians. We are working on lesson 4. Today we are going to be solving proportions. These are proportions. You may remember them back from 6th grade, but today we're going to look at ways that we can solve them and use them in our algebra equations. Okay, so your steps for solving. First of all, you are going to cross multiply. In our first fraction, we have a over b is equal to c over d. Well, I'm going to rewrite it so that a, my numerator, is multiplied by d, the denominator, on the opposite side of the equation. Then I have b, which is my denominator, times c, which is my numerator, on the opposite side. So yes, you can even do the butterfly wings if that helps you. Okay, and then you're going to distribute if need be, because look down here, some of them do look a little bit more messy. Then finally, we're going to solve. So as I work on these, we'll talk about these 3 steps. Okay, so let's take a look at our first one. So notice that I have 4, so I'm going to rewrite this as 4 times 6, because look at, I have a times d. So 4 times 6. Then that equals 3 times x. 3 times x. Now, as a mathematician, I would start to simplify. I've got 4 times 6 is 24 equals 3x. Well, now that I have an equation, I know what to do with it. So I am going to isolate the x. I want to get x by itself, so I'm going to divide both sides by 3. And I'm going to get x equals 8. And that is my answer. So very similar to what we were doing with our equations, except now they're written in a little bit more complex form. Okay, let's take a look at our second one. Now remember, I'm going to go a times d, so 2 times n plus 5. Now since n plus 5 is its own little term, I do have to put it inside parentheses. Then I'm going to do b times c. So I'm going to go 10 times 4. Now I do need to start to solve this. Now this is like one of those multi-step equations that you just finished. This is distributive property, so 2 times n and 2 times positive 5. So I have 2n plus 10 is equal to 10 times 4, which is 40. Now I'm going to solve just like I was doing in lessons 2 and 3. So I'm going to make my constant 0 by subtracting 10, subtract 10. Then I'm going to rewrite. I have 2n equals 30. Now I do need to make this coefficient a 1. So I'm going to divide by 2. That makes it a 1. Divide by 2, and I have n equals 15. I've got to write a little bit smaller so that I can fit everything in there. Okay, now let's go ahead and take a look at number 3. Again, I'm going to go a times d. My a is y minus 3, so I am going to go y minus 3, but remember that is a full term together, so I do need it in parentheses, times 5 equals 2 times y. Now, even though the 5 is on the back side of the parentheses, this is still distributive property. I need to go 5 times 3 and 5 times y. So 5 times y is 5y. 5 times negative 3 is negative 15 equals 2y. Now notice this time I have variables on both sides, just like we had in our multi-step variables or equations. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to think about which direction am I going to move my 5y or my 2y. Well, if I move my 2y, I'm going to end up with 0 and then have to start moving even more. So I'm actually going to move my 5y. I'm going to turn this into a 0 by subtracting 5y and subtracting 5y. So now I have negative 15 equals negative 3y. Now I need to make my, I need to isolate my y, so I need to make this into a negative 1. So I'm going to divide by negative 3 to make it a 1. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other, negative 3. Negative 15 divided by negative 3 is a positive 5. And negative 3 divided by negative 3 is a 1, and that's why I chose it. So it's just 1y, and that is my answer. Now, I'm going to go ahead and do one more because this one does get a lot more messy. Look at, we have 2 sets of terms here. So I'm going to go 2k minus 3 multiplied by 5 is the same thing as 3 times k plus 9. Now I do have to do distributive property on both sides. So 5 times 2k is 10k. 5 times negative 3 is negative 15. And over here I have 3 times k. And 3 times positive 9, which is 27. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and move my variables to one side. It's easier to move the smaller of the variables. So I'm going to move my positive 3k by using its opposite, negative 3k, that becomes a 0. And I'm going to minus 3k on this side. Now remember, rewrite. Always rewrite your equation so you see what's going on. 10k minus 3k is 7k. Minus 15 equals a positive 27. Now I have a two-step equation that I need to solve, so I'm going to make my constant a 0. So if I have negative 15, I'm going to add 15, becomes a 0. And whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. Now I am going to rewrite it over here just so I have more room. I have a 7k is equal to 27 plus 15 is 37, 42. Now I need to isolate my k. I want the 7 to become a 1, so I'm going to divide it by 7. And whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. And now I have k equals 6, and that is the answer. Okay, so you are going to try 5 on your own. And then you are going to either go into Delta Math and do the assignment there, or you are going to complete this worksheet. Good luck.